As a continuation into my curiosity with wilderness survival, I recently decided to experiment with starvation and famine. As a person living in modern times, it is quite rare for me to ever skip a meal or go hungry. In fact, until this experiment, I can't recall ever actually being hungry for any length of time. However, historically, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for people to go without food for days, or even weeks at a time during harsh periods. Having an abundance of food for the duration of one's life was probably an extreme exception rather than the norm. I would hesitate on going full-out starvation such as one would expect from actual survival situation. The toll it puts on the human body is extreme and not warranted for my purpose. However, losing body fat is something done routinely by modern bodybuilders who habitually cut their body fat down into the 5 to 6% range. This might not seem extreme, but at this level veins start to show through the skin all over the body and it's difficult to pinch any amount of fat anywhere. At this level of body fat, it's possible to see every muscle, including their striations. However, just like being too heavy, being too low on body fat is not healthy. However, I wasn't in it for purely aesthetic reasons like a bodybuilder. I was more motivated to understand what it felt like to be hungry and to function in an everyday setting under these conditions. While the ordinary man might carry more than 25% body fat, a normal body fat percentage is in the 18 to 25% range. An athlete carries about 6 to 13% body fat. These ranges are higher for women. I began with about 15% body fat. I could pinch a bit, but it wasn't noticeable. Most people would call me thin. However, I wasn't so thin that abs were visible, but my muscles were generally defined. I had a target body fat of about 10% or thereabouts, but it wasn't strict, and it really wasn't the goal of this experiment. Additionally, being beach ready was a nice side benefit, and it's something that I enjoyed by the upper 10% of the male population, so it was nice to see what effect it might have on me. For my purpose, I did a long daily fast consisting of no food for 16 hours, from 8 p.m. until 12 p.m. the next day, while consuming plenty of water. I then began my day with a normal to light breakfast and then dinner at a regular hour. I cut out all daily snacks. Essentially, I cut my meals by 40 to 50%. To simulate starvation, one could also cut out 50% of all meals and eat more regularly, but this is far more difficult to achieve and requires more diligence. Besides, skipping breakfast, going out to hunt, scavenge, or seek wild edibles in return for lunch would have been normal for our ancestors and thus fits well into the survival narrative. Waking and immediately eating stored food was for times of abundance, but having 3 solid meals for the eternity of our lives was by far the exception, and our bodies were unlikely to have been built to handle this. We also had to do hard physical labor for our food, so most of the food we consumed was invested in getting more food. This might be why nearly 35 to 40% of the American population is currently considered obese. We just aren't designed to be consuming so much food on a year-round basis with such minimal physical effort. Fasting is said to have health benefits that include improvements to blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and insulin sensitivity, resulting in a lower risk of diabetes. It has even been said to reboot the immune system by clearing out old immune cells and regenerating new ones, thereby protecting against cell damage caused by aging. Since while fasting no new food is being consumed, the body runs out of energy and dips into glucose stored in the liver and muscle. This occurs at around the 8th hour after the last meal. Once the body uses these stores, it switches to burning fat as a source of energy. This results in weight loss. However, as a side effect, the body may be detoxifying itself because toxins are stored in the body's fat, and once dissolved, they can be removed. After a few days of fasting, the body releases endorphins, which are natural painkillers. Endorphins are the body's feel-good hormones. Naturally, with any stress is the potential for negative reactions including dehydration, since water is not being consumed through food. Stress may also be elevated, as well as disruptions in sleep, headaches, and heartburn from acid reflux. A qualified doctor should be consulted before undertaking any kind of fasting to ensure that it is done responsibly. What I first noticed from my own experiment is that hunger was nagging, and it made concentration and motivation difficult. This soon waned, though, and by the second week I had adjusted. I no longer craved snacks at night, and while I felt hungry, it wasn't as pressing. I dropped weight quickly and also lost a little bit of muscular strength and energy, but not much. I could still lift nearly as much as before, but some light tasks were taxing. Ones that would ordinarily be simple required much more effort. I found that in order to get a good workout in, I'd have to wait until breakfast, and then do it right away after eating. Otherwise, I simply wouldn't feel like doing it. I also found that I would be hungry almost immediately after eating. In about 2 weeks, I had lost about 5% of body mass consisting mainly of fat, and likely water weight and a little bit of muscle. By comparison, it took me about 6 months of hard work to add the equivalent 5% of muscle by lifting weights. At times, I would also forget to eat at all and could see how people in survival mode died while having access to food rations. The body simply starts craving food after a while. After about 3 weeks, my body was much leaner and operating well. My mind was quite clear, almost as if at the reverse of a headache. I could concentrate with no hint of fog. For lack of a good descriptor, my mind felt light. But again, my body was weaker than normal and tasks were difficult. I could concentrate, but doing things was a challenge. My mood was normal and even flat, but it was also edgy and somewhat more anxious or fidgety, but nothing extreme. Having never gone hungry, I can say that it was both difficult and easy. It was a passive way to lose weight and that required nothing extra from me besides the will to endure hunger. At times it would be a burning, hollow pain and something that would wake me in the early hours of the day, but it didn't keep me awake at night or slow me from ordinary living. Overall, the experience was positive and something I will continue to experiment moving forward. Occasionally tapping into our fat reserves is likely something our bodies are designed to handle and possibly even benefit from.